Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here. Hope you've had a good week. Appreciate you taking a few minutes. If you want to follow along, you can look with me back in the Old Testament book of Jonah. Jonah chapter 1. We'll be looking at verse number 3 this morning anyway. We looked at the first two verses yesterday where God was called Jonah and told him to go to Nineveh. And one of the sad words in the Bible is after being called to Nineveh, the first word of verse 3 is but. But Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. And so this would have been, again, obviously the following day that Jonah, maybe not even the following day, maybe immediately, Jonah gets up and buys him a ticket. He goes to the port of Joppa looking for a trip going in what amounts to the actual opposite direction from Nineveh. Tarshish was going completely the opposite direction from Nineveh. So clearly, Jonah is a rebel who doesn't want to be obedient to what God says. And one of the things I've never really thought about till reading this morning was how many times in this verse God says Tarshish. Over and over again. Verse 3, Tarshish, ship going to Tarshish. Go with them to Tarshish. Over and over, God is stressing to us through His Word that Jonah was going contrary to what he had been told. And so I think the question then comes was why? Why would Jonah be disobedient, disobedient? This, again, a prophet, not a heathen, but a prophet. Why would he be this disobedient when God told him to go to Nineveh? First of all, one of the first reasons that we can think of is because the people of Nineveh, obviously here by what we read in verse 1, their evil had come up. They were wicked. They were a very violent people in battle. They showed no mercy to their enemies. They tortured people. They killed people. They would then take their corpse and their bodies, the dead bodies, and put them up on display. And then they had artwork. They would make artwork commemorating the evil things that they did. And so Jonah says, I'm not going to that place, man. Them people's crazy. They kill people there. And so, I guess on one hand, Jonah was doing what we often do in these situations when we're trying to avoid the leadership of God. He tried to make it very practical. He said, Lord, I know what you're saying, but I just don't think it's smart. I think I should go in the other direction. Just don't think that'd be a very wise idea. He wasn't putting it as I'm being disobedient. He was, maybe thinking, well, and we do that sometimes. We kind of reason, we rationalize our decisions. And then the second reason that we know that he didn't go to Nineveh is we're going to see later in the book that he didn't want to preach to them. He didn't want to go there. He didn't want to see them. Sadly, he didn't want to see them repent. He didn't want to see. He wanted them to be under God's judgment. He wanted them to God to destroy them, and he didn't want to preach to them. He was afraid that they actually Jonah's a unique preacher. He was afraid that they would listen to him, and so he goes in the opposite direction. But the really, I think, enlightening thing is the last few words of this passage when it says Jonah, he went to Tarshish away from the presence of the Lord. Clearly, we know that Jonah was a prophet. He wasn't he wasn't ignorant of the ways of God. He knew that God was everywhere, that he couldn't get away from the presence of God. I think maybe a better way of saying it is that he wanted to get away from the plan of God. He was fleeing. He was running away from the directions of God. It wasn't. And I don't think he thought he could get away from God, but he thought he could get away from the commandments of God. And so he knows he's going to be destroying his fellowship, his friendship, his relationship with God. And I just like to take those verses this morning and remind each of us of the importance of obedience, of following God, to know that we cannot get away from God. And here we see Jonah, doing his best, goes down and buys a ticket, and what we see is he pays for this ticket. So trying to get away from God and God's directions in his life, it costs Jonah money. It's going to cost him his health. It's going to cost him his peace. It's going to cost him his joy. It's going to cost him his safety. It's going to cost him ultimately his relationship with God. And I don't know what disobedience may cost you, but be sure of this: disobedience and disobeying the commandments, the demands of a holy God, it'll cost you something every time. Don't know if you may not end up in a ship, you may not end up in the belly of a great fish, but being disobedient will cost you every time. Think about it. Have a good day. We'll see you here tomorrow.